The sky outside the massive windows of the Orbital Academy shimmered with the faint glow of Earth's atmosphere. Inside, however, the mood was tense. Cadets bustled about in crisp uniforms, their boots clicking softly against the polished metal floors. This wasn't just any day at the Academy. It was testing day. For Alex Carter, a young man with an unassuming demeanor but a sharp mind for strategy, this was the moment he had been preparing for. Alex sat quietly at his desk in the briefing room, his fingers drumming lightly on the surface as he waited for Commander Laura Hayes to enter. He glanced around the other cadets, some whispering nervously, while others stared straight ahead, trying to appear confident. Across the room, Rachel Monroe caught his eye. She was everything Alex wasn't, bold, outspoken, and fiercely competitive. Her piercing gaze seemed to challenge him, even from across the distance. Alex quickly looked away, focusing instead on the blank screen in front of him. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Commander Hayes strode in. Her presence commanded immediate attention. Tall and stern, with short-cropped hair and eyes that missed nothing, she carried herself like someone who expected perfection. The cadets snapped to attention as she took her place at the front of the room. "Cadets," she began, her voice steady and clear, "today's exercise will focus on siege warfare." A murmur rippled through the room. Siege warfare? That felt ancient, almost irrelevant in an age of advanced technology and interstellar exploration. But no one dared question the commander directly. Instead, they exchanged puzzled glances. Alex raised his hand slowly, hesitating for a moment before speaking. "Commander, are we talking about ancient methods, modern tactics, or something classified?" His voice was calm, but there was a flicker of curiosity in his tone. Laura Hayes paused, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "That depends," she said, her gaze sweeping over the room, "on how far you're willing to push yourselves." Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. She turned back to Alex. "You'll lead the first team, Carter. Monroe, you'll head the opposing force." Rachel smirked at the mention of her name, clearly pleased with the arrangement. Alex swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. The simulation chamber was unlike anything most cadets had ever seen. It was a vast, domed room capable of transforming into virtually any environment imaginable. As Alex and his team stepped inside, the walls shimmered and shifted, creating the illusion of a medieval battlefield. Towering stone walls surrounded them, forming the outline of a castle under siege. Beyond the battlements, a sea of enemy soldiers stretched out as far as the eye could see. "This is insane," muttered Emily Dawson, one of Alex's teammates. She adjusted the strap of her rifle nervously. "How are we supposed to defend this place without modern weapons?" "We adapt," Alex replied simply. He moved to the edge of the wall, peering down at the advancing horde. Trebuchets fired massive stones into the air, battering the outer defenses. Flaming arrows rained down, igniting patches of dry grass near the gates. Alex's mind raced as he tried to piece together a plan. He turned to face his team. "Listen up. We can't match them head-on. They outnumber us 10-1. But we don't need to fight fair. We use what we have to our advantage." "What do you mean?" asked Jake Miller, another member of the group. Alex pointed toward the gatehouse. "They'll expect us to fortify the main entrance. So we make it look weak, leave gaps in the defenses, let them think they've found a way in. Then we hit them where it hurts." Over the next hour, Alex directed his team with precision. They created false vulnerabilities in the walls, leaving sections deliberately undefended. Hidden pits were dug beneath loose planks of wood, ready to swallow unsuspecting enemies whole. Archers positioned themselves in concealed alcoves, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Rachel's team, meanwhile, charged forward with reckless abandon. Confident in their numbers, they surged toward the castle, only to fall victim to Alex's carefully laid traps. Dozens of soldiers tumbled into the hidden pits, their screams echoing across the battlefield. Arrows flew from unexpected angles, picking off key leaders and sowing chaos among the ranks. Despite their initial success, Alex knew the battle was far from over. The enemy regrouped quickly, launching a second wave of attacks. This time, they brought siege towers, massive wooden structures designed to breach the walls. Alex watched grimly as the towering contraptions rolled closer, knowing that brute force alone wouldn't stop them. "We need fire," he said urgently. "Anything flammable, we throw it onto those towers." His team scrambled to gather oil lanterns, pitch-soaked torches, and anything else they could find. Working together, they hurled the makeshift incendiaries onto the approaching siege engines. Flames erupted, engulfing the towers and sending panicked soldiers scrambling for safety. By the time the smoke cleared, Alex's team had managed to hold the line, but not without cost. Several members lay injured, and exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone. Still, they had done the impossible. They had survived. As the simulation reset itself, Commander Hayes appeared once more. She nodded approvingly at Alex, though her expression remained unreadable. "Good work, Carter," she said. "But remember, this is only the beginning." Alex nodded, his heart pounding. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. This test was far more than just a game. And if he wanted to succeed, he would need every ounce of creativity and determination he possessed. The simulation chamber hummed with energy as the cadets prepared for the next phase of their test. Alex Carter stood at the center of his team, his mind still reeling from the intensity of the medieval siege they had just endured. His body ached from the simulated injuries, and his thoughts were clouded with the weight of leadership. But there was no time to rest. Commander Laura Hayes' voice echoed through the chamber, signaling the start of the second challenge. "This time," she announced, her tone firm and unyielding, "you'll face modern warfare." The walls of the chamber shimmered again, dissolving into a sprawling urban landscape. Towering skyscrapers loomed over wide streets littered with abandoned vehicles. The air buzzed with the sound of distant explosions and the faint crackle of radio transmissions. It was a city under attack, chaotic, dangerous, and eerily lifelike. Alex's team gathered around him, their faces pale but determined. Emily Dawson stepped forward, clutching a tablet-like device in her hands. She was the tech expert of the group, and her sharp eyes scanned the environment for vulnerabilities. "This is bad," she muttered. "They got drones, automated turrets, and probably cyber weapons. We're outgunned." "We've been outgunned before," Alex replied, his voice steady despite the knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. He glanced at the others, trying to project confidence. "We just need to think smarter, not harder." Rachel Monroe's team wasted no time launching their assault. From the rooftops above, drones descended like mechanical birds of prey, their cameras scanning for targets. Automated turrets opened fire from concealed positions, forcing Alex's team to take cover behind overturned cars and crumbling walls. The air filled with a deafening roar of gunfire and the sharp whine of bullets ricocheting off metal. "We can't stay here," shouted Jake Miller, crouching low behind a concrete barrier. His voice was strained, panic creeping into his words. "They'll pin us down." Alex nodded, his mind racing. He turned to Emily. "Can you hack into their systems? Shut down those drones." Emily hesitated, her fingers flying across the tablet screen. "I can try, but it won't be easy. Their network is encrypted, and if I make one wrong move, they'll trace me back to our location." "Do it," Alex said firmly. "We'll buy you time." He signaled to the rest of the team. "Jake, Mia, you're with me. We'll draw their fire while Emily works. Everyone else, stay low and keep an eye out for any surprises." The plan was risky, but it was all they had. Alex led Jake and Mia out into the open, firing short bursts from their rifles to grab the enemy's attention. The drones swarmed toward them, their cameras locking onto their movements. Automated turrets adjusted their aim, peppering the ground around them with bullets. "Emily, hurry!" Alex yelled, diving behind a pile of rubble as a drone swooped overhead, its machine guns blazing. "I'm almost in." Emily called back, her voice tense. Her fingers moved furiously across the tablet, lines of code scrolling rapidly on the screen. Sweat dripped from her brow as she worked, her focus absolute. Meanwhile, Rachel's team pressed their advantage. A squad of cloaked infantry units materialized out of thin air, flanking Alex's position. They moved silently, their advanced camouflage making them nearly invisible until they were right on top of their targets. "Contact!" Mia screamed, spinning around to fire at the sudden threat. One of the cloaked soldiers went down, but the others closed in quickly, forcing Alex's team to retreat. "Fall back," Alex ordered, his heart pounding as he tried to regroup. They retreated into a narrow alleyway, using the tight space to funnel the enemy into a choke point. It was a desperate move, but it bought them precious seconds. Finally, Emily let out a triumphant shout. "Got it? I've disabled their drones and jammed their communications." The effect was immediate. The drones froze midair, their systems overloaded by Emily's hack. The automated turrets fell silent, their targeting systems disrupted. For the first time since the battle began, Alex's team had the upper hand. "Now's our chance," Alex said, rallying his team. "Push forward and secure the central command post. If we can hold that, we win." The team surged ahead, fighting their way through the remaining enemy forces. Rachel's team fought back fiercely, but without their technological edge, they were no match for Alex's determined counterattack. One by one, the enemy fell back, retreating into the shadows of the ruined city. When the dust settled, Alex stood atop the central command post, breathing heavily but victorious. His team gathered around him, exhausted but elated. Even Emily managed a tired smile as she slumped against the wall, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. Commander Hayes appeared once more, her expression unreadable as always. "Well done, Carter," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "But don't get too comfortable. The final phase awaits." Alex nodded, his mind already turning to what might come next. He knew the challenges would only grow harder, but for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had faced modern warfare, and they had won. The simulation chamber flickered and shifted once again, but this time, the transformation felt different. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched thin. Alex Carter exchanged uneasy glances with his team. Something about this phase felt wrong. Commander Laura Hayes' voice cut through the silence, her tone more serious than ever before. "Cadets, this is your final test. Everything you've faced so far has prepared you for this moment. But remember, what you're about to encounter is classified. Adaptation will be your only chance at survival." Before anyone could ask questions, the chamber dissolved into an alien landscape. Jagged cliffs rose like broken teeth against a blood-red sky, their surfaces shimmering faintly as though alive. Strange, pulsating plants dotted the ground, emitting a low hum that vibrated in Alex's chest. In the distance, towering structures of twisted metal loomed, their shapes shifting unpredictably as if they refused to obey the laws of physics. "This isn't right," whispered Emily Dawson, clutching her tablet tightly. Her usual confidence was replaced by unease. "I can't even scan the environment properly. It keeps changing." Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Stay sharp. Whatever we're dealing with, it's not human." As if on cue, the first attack came. A wave of shadowy figures materialized out of nowhere, their forms flickering between solid and translucent. They moved unnaturally fast, darting across the terrain in ways that defied logic. One moment they were meters away, the next they were right in front of the team, weapons raised. "Take cover," Alex shouted, diving behind a rocky outcrop. His team scrambled to follow, firing blindly at the attackers. But their bullets passed harmlessly through the shadows, dissipating into nothingness. "What do we do?" Jake Miller yelled, panic rising in his voice. "Our weapons don't work." Alex gritted his teeth, his mind racing. These weren't ordinary enemies. They were something else entirely. He turned to Emily. "Can you analyze them? Find a weakness?" Emily shook her head, her fingers flying across her tablet. "It's like they don't exist in our dimension. I'm picking up traces of temporal distortions, time loops, spatial anomalies. It's all over the place." "Temporal distortions?" Alex repeated, frowning. "Time manipulation. That explained why the enemy seemed to appear and disappear at will. If they could control time itself, how could anyone fight back?" Rachel Monroe's team wasn't faring much better. Their aggressive tactics, which had worked so well in previous phases, were useless here. The alien forces ignored conventional strategies, striking from multiple angles simultaneously and erasing entire squads with devastating precision. "We need a new plan," Alex said, his voice firm despite the chaos around him. "If we can't fight them directly, maybe we can use their own abilities against them." Emily looked skeptical. "How? We don't even understand their tech." "We don't have to," Alex replied. "We disrupt it, create feedback loops, make their own powers turn on them." It was a risky idea, but it was all they had. Alex quickly outlined his plan. Emily would create a program designed to amplify the temporal distortions, feeding them back into the alien systems. Meanwhile, the rest of the team would act as a distraction, drawing the enemy's attention while Emily set up the trap. "Are you sure this will work?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. "No," Alex admitted, "but it's our best shot." The team sprang into action. Alex led Jake and Mia out into the open, firing wildly to draw the aliens' focus. The shadowy figures swarmed toward them, their movement erratic and unpredictable. Every step forward felt like stepping into quicksand. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist around them. Behind the scenes, Emily worked furiously, her hands shaking as she coded the program. Lines of text scrolled across her screen at lightning speed, each command bringing her closer to completion. She knew there was no margin for error. If she made one mistake, the entire system could collapse. "Almost done," she called out, her voice strained. "Hurry," Alex shouted back. The aliens were closing in, their attacks growing more intense. One of the shadowy figures lunged at Mia, its form solidifying just long enough to knock her off her feet. Jake fired repeatedly, but his bullets continued to pass harmlessly through the creature. "I'm in," Emily screamed, hitting the final key. The ground beneath them trembled as the program activated, sending waves of energy rippling outward. The aliens froze, their forms flickering violently as the feedback loop destabilized their temporal manipulations. For a moment, everything went still. Then, with a deafening crack, the aliens collapsed inward, consumed by their own chaotic energy. The battlefield fell silent, the jagged cliffs and shimmering plants fading back into the sterile walls of the simulation chamber. Alex slumped to the ground, his body trembling with exhaustion. His team gathered around him, their faces pale but triumphant. Even Rachel approached, her usual arrogance replaced by grudging respect. "You did it," Commander Hayes said, stepping forward. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a hint of approval in her voice. "You adapted, improvised, and overcame an unknown threat. That's what leadership is about." Alex nodded, too tired to speak. He knew this wasn't the end. Not truly. The universe was vast and full of dangers beyond imagination. But for now, he allowed himself a small sense of pride. They had faced the impossible, and they had won. The simulation chamber faded back into its default state, the alien landscape dissolving into sterile white walls and glowing panels. Alex Carter sat on the cold floor, his legs stretched out in front of him, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His team gathered around, their faces a mix of exhaustion and relief. The weight of what they had just endured was still sinking in. For a moment, no one spoke. Commander Laura Hayes stood at the edge of the room, watching them silently. Her arms were crossed, and her expression remained unreadable. But there was something softer in her gaze now, a flicker of respect. She stepped forward, breaking the silence. "Cadets," she began, her voice steady but quieter than usual. "What you experienced today goes beyond standard training. This exercise was designed to test not just your skills, but your ability to adapt, lead, and think creatively under pressure." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You faced ancient tactics, modern warfare, and classified threats. Each phase demanded something different from you. And while mistakes were made, you adapted. You learned. That's what matters most." Alex looked up at her, his mind still racing with questions. "Commander, why did we face those aliens? Were they real, or just part of the simulation?" Hayes hesitated, then nodded slowly. "They're real, or as real as anything can be when dealing with advanced technology. Humanity has encountered species capable of manipulating time and space before. It's rare, but it happens. Today's test was meant to prepare you for scenarios where conventional strategies fail." Rachel Monroe stepped forward, her usual bravado tempered by curiosity. "So, is this the kind of thing we'll actually deal with out there? In the field?" Hayes didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "The universe is vast, unpredictable, and often dangerous. Your job isn't just to fight, it's to understand, to find solutions that others might overlook. That's why leaders like you are essential." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Alex felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. He glanced at his teammates, Emily, Jake, Mia, and saw the same emotions reflected in their eyes. They had been pushed to their limits, forced to confront challenges they never imagined. But they had also discovered strengths within themselves they hadn't known existed. As the cadets filed out of the chamber, Rachel lingered behind. She approached Alex cautiously, her arms crossed over her chest. "Look," she said, her tone uncharacteristically hesitant. "I know I gave you a hard time earlier, but you handled yourself well out there, better than I expected." Alex blinked, surprised by the unexpected praise. "Thanks," he replied, offering a small smile. "You weren't too bad yourself." Rachel smirked faintly, some of her old confidence returning. "Yeah, well, don't let it go to your head. Next time, I'm taking the lead." "Fair enough," Alex said, chuckling softly. Despite their rivalry, he couldn't help but feel a sense of mutual respect growing between them. Later that evening, Alex found himself alone in the Academy's observation deck, staring out at the stars beyond the massive windows. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and white marble suspended in the endless void. The sight filled him with both awe and apprehension. Out there, somewhere among those countless points of light, lay untold mysteries and dangers. He thought about everything he had learned during the simulation. Ancient castles, modern cities, alien landscapes. They were all pieces of a larger puzzle. A puzzle that humanity would need to solve if it hoped to survive and thrive in the cosmos. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mind if I join you?" Alex turned to see Emily Dawson standing nearby, holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. He smiled and gestured for her to sit. "Sure, thanks." They sat in companionable silence for a while, sipping their drinks and gazing out at the stars. Finally, Emily spoke. "Do you ever wonder what's really out there? Beyond the simulations, beyond the stories we hear in class?" "All the time," Alex admitted. "It's exciting, but scary too. What if we're not ready?" "We will be," Emily said firmly, "because of people like you. Leaders who can think outside the box, who aren't afraid to take risks. That's how we'll make it through whatever comes next." Her words resonated deeply with Alex. He realized that leadership wasn't just about giving orders or winning battles. It was about inspiring others, finding strength in teamwork, and facing the unknown with courage. These lessons would stay with him long after the simulation ended. As the night wore on, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. The tests had been grueling, but they had also taught him something invaluable. The universe was full of challenges, yes, but it was also full of opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to learn, and to push the boundaries of what was possible. When he finally returned to his quarters, Alex lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. His body was tired, but his mind raced with possibilities. Whatever lay ahead, whether it was ancient sieges, modern conflicts, or encounters with alien civilizations, he knew one thing for certain. He was ready. And so, beneath the watchful eyes of the stars, Alex Carter drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the adventures yet to come. The days following the simulation passed in a blur for Alex Carter. Life at the Orbital Academy returned to its usual rhythm. Classes, drills, and briefings. But nothing felt quite the same. The experience had changed him, and it was clear that it had left its mark on his teammates as well. Conversations in the hallways carried a new weight, filled with speculation about what awaited them beyond the Academy's walls. Alex spent much of his time reflecting on everything he had learned. He replayed each phase of the test in his mind. The medieval siege, the urban battlefield, the alien planet, and realized how much he had grown. What once seemed impossible now felt like stepping stones towards something greater. Yet, despite his newfound confidence, doubt lingered in the corners of his thoughts. Was he truly prepared for what lay ahead? Commander Laura Hayes called into her office one evening, breaking the monotony of routine. The room was dimly lit, its walls lined with holographic displays showing star charts and mission logs. Hayes sat behind her desk, her expression calm but focused. "Carter," she began without preamble, "your performance during the simulation didn't go unnoticed, not just by me, but by higher-ups as well." Alex shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Higher-ups?" Hayes nodded. "There's a mission being planned, an exploration initiative into uncharted space. It's classified high-risk and potentially groundbreaking. They're looking for cadets who can think on their feet, adapt to unknown threats, and lead under pressure." Alex's heart raced. This was it, the moment he had been training for. But the enormity of the opportunity hit him like a tidal wave. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "There are others who are stronger, faster, smarter." "You're wrong," Hayes interrupted, leaning forward slightly. "Strength isn't always measured in physical terms. You showed creativity, resilience, and empathy. Those qualities are rare, especially in leadership roles. And they're exactly what we need out there." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Of course, this is your choice. If you accept, you'll be leaving the academy sooner than expected. There won't be time for second-guessing or hesitation. Are you ready for that?" Alex hesitated, his mind racing. He thought about his teammates, the bonds they had formed, the challenges they had overcome together. Leaving would mean stepping away from the familiar, venturing into the unknown without a safety net. But wasn't that why he had joined the academy in the first place? To explore, to push boundaries, to make a difference? "I'm ready," he said finally, his voice steady. "What I need to do?" Hayes smiled faintly, a rare expression of approval crossing her face. "First, you'll undergo additional training. Advanced tactics, survival skills, and diplomacy. Then, you'll meet the rest of your crew. Some will be seasoned veterans. Others will be cadets like yourself. Together, you'll form the backbone of this mission." Over the next few weeks, Alex threw himself into the preparations. The training was intense, pushing him to his limits both physically and mentally. He sparred with combat instructors, studied alien languages, and practiced navigating simulated environments that mimicked the harshest conditions imaginable. Through it all, he kept thinking about the lessons he had learned during the siege warfare test. Adaptability, teamwork, and quick thinking. These were the keys to success. As the launch date approached, Alex found himself spending more time with his teammates. Emily Dawson became a constant companion, her sharp mind and dry humor providing a welcome balance to the tension of impending departure. Jake Miller and Mia Chin joined them often, sharing stories and speculating about what the mission might hold. Even Rachel Monroe made an effort to connect, her competitive edge softened by a newfound camaraderie. On the eve of their departure, the group gathered in the observation deck for one last look at Earth. The planet glowed softly against a backdrop of infinite stars, a reminder where they came from and what they were fighting to protect. "This is it," Emily said, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet but filled with determination. "Tomorrow, we leave all this behind. And find something new," Alex added, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Something worth fighting for." Rachel smirked, though there was no malice in it this time. "Just don't get too sentimental, Carter. We got work to do." They laughed softly, the sound mingling with the hum of the station around them. For a moment, the uncertainty of the future faded, replaced by a shared sense of purpose. The next morning, Alex stood on the boarding platform, clad in his uniform and carrying only a small duffel bag. His team waited nearby, their faces a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Commander Hayes appeared one final time to see them off. "Remember," she said, addressing the group, "you represent humanity. Every decision you make, every action you take, it matters. Trust each other, trust yourselves, and never forget why you're out there." With those words, she stepped back, allowing the cadets to board the spacecraft. As the engines roared to life, Alex took his seat, gripping the armrests tightly. The ship lifted off, leaving the safety of the orbital academy behind. Through the viewport, he watched as Earth grew smaller and smaller, eventually disappearing entirely. In its place stretched a vast expanse of space, endless and full of promise. Alex felt a surge of emotion. Fear, hope, wonder, all swirling together in a chaotic yet exhilarating mix. He turned to Emily, who sat beside him. "Do you think we'll find anything out there?" he asked, half joking. Emily grinned. "If we don't, we'll make our own adventure." As the ship hurtled toward the unknown, Alex allowed himself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he wouldn't face them alone. Together, they would carve their place in the stars.